Elder Matthews of the Whispering Pines Apothecary Guild walked up to me, holding a background check form on a clipboard. Name, gender, Ethan Potts. Well, I'm a sentient cast iron skillet. How about a handle? I guess that makes me male. The elder scribbled it down. Excellent. Now I'll give you the first half of a phrase. You give me the second. I'll be back, and I'll be waiting. Elder Matthews wrote, determined, shows follow through. To infinity, and my student loan debt. He noted, grounded personality, unlikely to develop delusions of grandeur. So, once you're in, do you want to cultivate magical herbs or raise enchanted beasts? Do I really have to pick which pile of crap I want for dinner? Can't you show a little ambition? You're old enough to be retired, but you're still out here working. Are you doing it for the sheer love of the game? The elder's hand paused. He wrote, logical but sharp-tongued, suitable for potion making, specializing in poisons. Approved. And just like that, I was in. The moment I stepped through the guild gates, a stream of text appeared in my vision, visible only to me. OMG, OMG, a real live skillet. I'm so excited. Even a magical guild has background checks. It's just like applying for a government job. The day I went for my journeyman alchemist certification exam, the chat was buzzing. Streamer, listen to me. Start with a caramel roux. We're going for a dark arts build. 1 part sulfur, 2 parts saltpeter, 3 parts charcoal. Add a pinch of sugar for that big boy bang. And let it rip. And that's how the first mushroom cloud in the history of the magical world was born. It was a drizzly April afternoon when I first arrived, lucky to get in on a technicality, because they just increased their enrollment quota. As any of my fellow alchemists will tell you, blowing stuff up is basically alchemy 101. Pay attention now. The man before you, a perfect 10 in looks, build, and overall vibe, is named Ethan Potts. I am, for lack of a better term, a skilletkin. I was taken in as Elder Matthews' final disciple on the spot because I possessed the legendary gourmet spirit root. I thought I was some kind of prodigy. 1 second, I was smugly thinking that all those other legendary mages who came before me were just clumsy birds who needed a head start to avoid my inevitable brilliance. The next second, the elder had tossed me in front of an alchemy cauldron and grunted, "You're in charge of locking up." This had to be some kind of test for his final, most special disciple. At least, that's what I thought until 2 other apprentices walked out of the alchemy lab. I'm an inner disciple, the first one said. I'm responsible for that door inside the lab. And I'm an outer disciple, the second one added. I handle the main entrance. So my title as his final disciple, who handles the doors, was literal? I was just a guy who locked up at night? Whatever. The world is full of heroes and geniuses struggling to get by. Why should I, a sentient skillet, have it easy? Most of my kind were either braising short ribs or simmering soup somewhere. At least I had a title. Maybe my diligent door-locking moved the old man, because every time he successfully brewed a batch of pills, he'd toss me a couple. I ate them like candy, and before I knew it, I'd broken through to the foundation stage. Elder Matthews had the senior disciple, Jessica Vance, take me to get registered with the guild and collect my monthly stipend and personal cauldron. The moment she appeared, my chat went wild. I'm single, and I would kill for a gentle girlfriend like Jessica. Dude above me, if you're single you must have a lot of money saved up. Too bad, she's a total simp. The moment the main character shows up, her IQ drops to 0. The kind of 0 that zombies wouldn't even eat her brain. Later in the story, she turns herself into a freaking lich queen just to get revenge for him. What? And lo, somebody crowdfund a new brain for Jessica. From these strange, scrolling words, I was slowly piecing it together. I was living inside some kind of novel. My senior, Jessica Vance, was the resident simp, the designated female side character doomed to chase a guy who would never love her back. She was the evergreen in the garden of unrequited love. But this supposedly foolish girl was the first person to be genuinely kind to me. She taught me how to cultivate my energy. An alchemist can't just brew potions, Jessica told me. You need a way to defend yourself. She advised me to buy a bunch of mini cauldrons. In a pinch, you could use them as grenades. Other guilds were terrified of fighting us because you never knew what the hell was going to pop out of one of our cauldrons when it exploded. Before she left, she gave me a piece of advice. Ethan, this is the time in your life to hustle, not to slack off. Work hard. If you ever run into any problems, you can always come find me. I just stood there silently. The word hustle is just 1 letter away from hostile. Besides, if I have the choice not to work myself to death, why wouldn't I choose to chill? I'd have to be crazy not to. Never listen to a workaholic. You'll be comfortable all year. Young people need to learn to enjoy the good life when they can. Then she hit me with another gem. Young people need to be proactive. See a guild task? Jump on it. I thought to myself, when everyone else is working and I'm not, doesn't that just prove the work has nothing to do with me? Still, I nodded politely. I'll work hard, Jessica. I sighed, lamenting her fate. She was such a nice person. But then again, if she becomes a Lich Queen, does her toxicity level go up or down after she dies? The next day, I was staring at the communication talisman Jessica had given me, completely stumped. The monthly supply of sustain pills I'd picked up from the guild services office yesterday was gone. I'd eaten them all in one sitting. It was the chat's fault. They distracted me, and I didn't properly hear Jessica's instructions on how to take the pills. One guy said to take them before a meal. Another said during. A third said after. Finally, a comment from a user named The Expert caught my eye. Streamer, take one before, one during, and one after. Let's say one pill has a 70% chance of curbing hunger. 3 pills gives you a 210% chance. You'll be totally hunger-proof. Me being a skillet with everything but a brain actually believed him. I woke up this morning starving, and that's when I realized Whispering Pines doesn't have a cafeteria. I'm so screwed. 3 sustain pills were supposed to last me a month. A wave of despair washed over me. I finally get a human form, and I don't even have the basic freedom to eat when I want. How is that any different from the corporate drones in my chat, rotting away in their cubicles? I gave up on the idea of begging Jessica for more pills and decided to make my own. I turned to the cauldron I'd picked up yesterday and asked the chat, any veteran alchemists know how to use this thing? Not really. Our dark arts sect usually just steals finished potions. Next time I mug someone, I'll ask for you. I rolled my eyes. The more I looked at the cauldron, the more it looked like, well, a big cast iron pot. Streamer, I use an induction cooktop all the time. A stove is a stove, right? I can teach you. My name is Ethan Potts. I was originally planning to refine some pills, but under the guidance of my chat, I was now hosting a cooking show. The cauldron was bubbling cheerfully. I tossed in peppercorns, bay leaves, chunks of carrot, celery, and a handful of cilantro. The chat was going ballistic. Streamer, you idiot. With ingredients that good, you should be making slow-braised short ribs. Get some evergreen lamb. Start the ribs in cold water with some turnips. Bring it to a boil, skim the scum until the water's clear. Then toss him in a cauldron with 3 spoonfuls of salt and let it go for 3 hours. Toss the turnips back into broth. Boil some noodles, sprinkle with green onions, cilantro, and white pepper. Boom, lamb noodle soup. My mouth started watering. I didn't know what evergreen lamb was but lamb. I glanced over at the herb garden. A flock of jade horn sheep were munching on magical grass. They ate nothing but enchanted herbs and drank magical spring water. They had to be at least as good as this evergreen lamb they were talking about. The braised mutton in my cauldron was ready. The meat was tender, the broth was rich, and there was no gamey taste at all. Even the chat was impressed. You're the saddest food streamer I've ever seen. You gotta dip it in chili flakes and garlic slices. That's where the flavor is at. Slurp. Am I the only one who's curious what a whole roasted hog from the magical world would taste like? The chat started giving me ideas. Yes, you have to use the celestial crucible in the main alchemy lab. It's the best cauldron in the whole guild, self-rotating, even heating. I silently looked away. These people were insane. That was Elder Matthew's pride and joy. If he caught me, he'd peel my hide off. That night, 1 jade horn sheep went missing from the herb garden. I snuck into the alchemy lab and loaded the marinated hog into the celestial crucible. Just then, a thunderous boom erupted outside the guild, exploding high in the sky into a shower of fireworks, raining down like a meteor shower. The chat instantly lit up. Ayo, the main character has arrived. Everyone make way. Those 8-pack abs are mine. Fun fact, when you're touching his abs, you're only about an inch away from his colon. And Jessica thinks he set off those fireworks for her. He was actually trying to brew an aphrodisia toxin, but the cauldron exploded. Now he has to beg Jessica to make it for him. Yeah, the main female lead from Silverblade Academy has been giving him the cold shoulder, so he's decided to play dirty. Poison her, then pretend to be her savior, seal the deal, and lock her down for good. Jessica seems like the easiest target. As long as he pretends to listen to her problems and text her back every day, she'll think it's true love. What the hell were they talking about? All I cared about was my roast hog. I was a bit surprised that the main character was from Grimoire University, though I'd heard the students and faculty there were a bit morally flexible. The founding dean apparently got his start writing steamy romance novels. After they got popular, He ascended to godhood on the power of his reader's belief. But the jerk then sealed off that path to godhood, forcing countless others who followed in his footsteps to start their cultivation all over again. The very definition of biting the hand that feeds you. The students from that place were grade A hypocrites. If I hit you, you deserved it. If you hit me, that's not okay. No wonder this Drake guy could come up with such a scummy plan. Even I, as skillet, wouldn't stoop that low. But how could Jessica's IQ be lower than mine? I'm a skillet. Skillets don't have brains. I was calculating the cooking time for my hog, giving it another baste with honey glaze for good measure. Soon, the chat exploded again. Streamer, footsteps. Run. Who would be coming to the alchemy lab this late at night? I peeked through a crack in the door. It was Jessica. The aroma wafting from the cauldron was so good, I couldn't bring myself to move. You guys think, if I offer Jessica half the hog, she'll help me keep a secret? Streamer, she looks pissed. Pissed enough to punch a hole in the moon. If you're not afraid of dying, go for it. I shrank back. It's not that I'm a coward. It's just that cast iron is brittle. In the end, I painfully abandoned my roast hog and scrambled up to the rafters. I had just gotten settled when I heard Jessica mutter to herself. Strange. Jessica noticed a fragrant smell in the lab. It was familiar. Was Elder Matthews brewing another batch of pills? But her thoughts quickly returned to Drake Sterling and his request for the aphrodisiatoxin. The poison was incredibly potent, made from 7 different venomous insects, honey, rare herbs, and a snow lotus from the highest peaks, refined for 49 days straight. It didn't need refrigeration and had no preservatives, but its effects were violent. Without a release, the victim would explode. Besides its lethality, it tasted a little sweet. The perfect tool for any scoundrel on the go. Jessica hadn't asked Drake who it was for. Deep down, she already had a suspect in mind, but she didn't want to admit it. Was it just because she was the little princess of the Silver Blade Academy, able to give him access to limitless resources? Furious and hurt, Jessica began brewing the potion with a grim face. As anyone who's ever used a magical cauldron knows, you have to preheat it first. The Armstrong hyperkinetic celestial cyclone crucible got hotter, and the smell got better and better. Jessica swallowed unconsciously. That's weird. Really weird. That doesn't smell like a potion. What does that smell? In a flash, she remembered. It was the smell of a whole roasted hog. Which son of a bitch was using the guild's top-of-the-line Armstrong hyperkinetic celestial cyclone crucible to roast a damn hog? Jessica exploded. And so did the Armstrong hyperkinetic celestial cyclone crucible. And so did the entire roast a hog. Yellow, red, and white bits splattered across the room, coating the ceiling, floor, and walls like a layer of curry. Drake, drawn by the noise, arrived and stopped dead in his tracks. He stared in disbelief at the material, plastered everywhere. You used the Armstrong hyperkinetic celestial cyclone crucible to have a shit explosion party. No. Jessica cried, scooping up a bit with her finger and holding it under his nose. I swear it wasn't me. Smell it. It's fragrant. Drake shrieked and recoiled like he'd seen a ghost. You're playing with it. Get away from me. Jessica looked utterly heartbroken. The pills I used to give you were all made like this. Give me some time, she pleaded. I'll make you a fresh batch. At the mention of the pills he'd eaten, Drake suddenly doubled over, jamming his fingers down his throat, trying to claw out his very soul. Watching this from the rafters, my heart shattered into a million pieces. My hog. After the great hog roast incident, I laid low for a while. Elder Matthews was furious and had the guild security team investigating the culprit. Jessica stormed into the herb garden and saw me. It was you, wasn't it? I don't know why, but I know it was you. Jessica, I'm a skillet. Oh, a silly pot, right? Have you seen anyone stealing sheep lately? I shook my head like a bobblehead doll. Well, keep an eye out for me. If you see anyone trying to steal another one, you tell me immediately. I nodded, asking the sheep thief to help you catch the sheep thief. Not even a 10-year coma could produce a plan that brilliant. I checked out 2 copies of Solving 50% of Your Cultivation Problems from the archives and spent a few quiet days reading and tending the flock. Then, one afternoon, a sword master fell out of the sky and landed right on top of me. Her face was flushed, her breathing shallow. My chat went into overdrive. Streamer, here comes a jackpot. Quick, lie down and pretend you're injured. And order the most expensive cauldron from the guild store on your phone. Wait, I think that's the little princess from Silverblade Academy. The legendary sword sovereign from Silverblade Academy? The one who could move mountains and was famous for her pure physical power? I was supposed to scam her? She could punch me into a quesadilla. I turned to run, but the woman on the ground was already staggering to her feet. "Hey kid, where am I?" she rasped. "Hand over any antidotes you have." The chat spoiled the whole plot. LMAO, Drake snuck into Silverblade Academy and coated her training sword with aphrodisiatoxin. He's probably showering and picking out his best outfit to make a heroic entrance and save the damsel in distress. She tried to get help from her dad, but accidentally teleported to Whispering Pines instead. Ha! Drake's whole plan went up in smoke. He's about to cry his eyes out. Go on and cry, buddy. Tears are man's best fishnets. Ah, this is before Drake ruins her life. Before she has to sacrifice herself to let her disciples escape. It was a better time. She's not allowed to die. I'll watch a 120-second ad to resurrect her. I frowned. Why was every main character in this story so damn miserable? Was the author secretly Cormac McCarthy? I looked at the heroine with a vacant expression. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Before I could finish my feigned idiocy, a fist flew at my face. Crap, my nose exploded with pain. Still on play dumb. I clutched my nose, staring in shock at the Amazonian woman before me. By all the gods, this psycho just assaults innocent skillets without warning. Is this really the same person you guys said sacrifices herself to save her disciples? Haha, that's the little demon of Silverblade for you. Fists first, questions later. If he could beat her in a fair fight, Drake wouldn't have resorted to cheap tricks like poison. Just accept your fate, streamer, and latch on her leg. Her dad is the headmaster of Silverblade. Stick with her, and you'll be eating 10 meals a day. If it means I get to hang with a heroine, I drive a sports car, and live in a mansion, I swear. The chat was a mess. I pulled out one of my mini cauldrons, ready for a fight to the death. Time is money, and money is time. Take this. The cauldron exploded in the air, releasing a cloud of durian and fermented fish-flavored smoke. Ma'am, I'm not just some pushover. Please leave at once. But the woman's eyes were cold, like she'd seen through all the world's bullshit. Do you have any idea how many times I've been hit with aphrodisiatoxin this month? She said flatly. Usually, I just get a thanks for playing message. The high and mighty sword sovereign blinked. Then with a single, overwhelming move, she pinned me to the ground. Her face was flushed red as she growled through gritted teeth. Now, cure me. I couldn't fight her, and I couldn't run. I had no choice but to drag the sword sovereign back to my place. Even the guild leader had to write off a bad debt to Silverblade Academy every year. I had a sneaking suspicion they set up their school right next to Whispering Pines just to make running insurance scams easier. I may have the gourmet spirit route, and I use my cauldron for cooking every day, but this was my first time actually brewing a real potion. I followed the steps I remembered from Elder Matthew's lectures. An hour later, the sword sovereign, now lying weakly on my cot, asked, "Is it done yet?" I scratched my head. Almost. I glanced down at the cauldron. Crap, I forgot to light the fire. Seeing her looking weaker by the second, I felt a pang of guilt and yelled, "Damn these shoddy fire talismans. They look legit, but they're covered in stick figures. Useless." The chat mocked me. The talisman master, why you gotta do me like that? Streamer, don't blame the road for your own bad driving. My hand slipped, and I added 3 extra spoonfuls of sugar. These guys were just here for the show, not giving a single thought to whether I lived or died. With the recipe botched, the cauldron started to rumble, looking like it was about to blow. The chat came to the rescue. Add water. Add water. Without thinking, I followed their frantic instructions. During the brewing process, I even snuck a few bites of the ingredients. A chef who doesn't snack isn't a good alchemist. Finally, the cauldron shuddered. The potion was done. I brought the pot of thick, sludgy soup to the sword sovereign. She looked surprised. Are you sure this is a potion? I'm not, I admitted, but it should work. Just think of it as a stew. All the nutrients are in the broth. At this point, she didn't have any other options. She picked up the bowl and started chugging. This porridge. Wait, no, this bowl of black sesame paste actually tastes pretty good. I couldn't look. I averted my eyes. Probably just added too much soy sauce. Other people's alchemy produced pills that were beautiful and fragrant. My alchemy just focused on one thing, making sure it was cooked. Don't ask about the taste. Just be glad you're alive. After a long day, Chef Potts was officially off the clock. Ma'am, since you're feeling better, you should probably get going. It wouldn't look good if someone saw you here. The words were barely out of my mouth when Jessica kicked my door open. Ethan, what are you snacking on in here? She chirped. I smell black sesame paste. My face darkened. It's an antidote, you black sesame paste. Jessica looked around the room, then lowered her head shyly and tucked her hair behind her ear. Oh, Ethan, I see I've come at a bad time. What is she talking about? She was being weird. I turned my head. On the cot, the Sword Sovereign was sitting up, her face rosy. She was frowning and rubbing her stomach. My friend, she said, looking at me gravely, I don't think this is right. You got my stomach. Pregnant. Ma'am, you can't just say things like that. I yelped. You can take poison willy-nilly, but words have consequences. You're just full. The Sword Sovereign burped. Why did the medicine taste like lamb? Jessica's brow furrowed. I was terrified she'd figure out the roasted hog incident. I quickly cut the Sword Sovereign off. Lamb, baba black sheep. Have you any wool? Jessica looked at me with approval. Not bad. You're a regular poet, Ethan. She didn't recognize the Sword Sovereign, but since Drake had a crush on her, Jessica had a natural aversion to all sword masters. I've been developing a new type of pill, I lied. She's a test subject I hired. Jessica looked suspicious, but just then, Drake arrived at Whispering Pines. She assumed he was there to see her and happily rushed off. After sending Jessica away, I wiped the sweat from my brow. Ma'am, this humble temple of mine can't house a goddess like you. You really should go. The chat erupted. Humble? What's humble about it? It's big enough for a Popeyes to move right in. Don't look, Colonel. It's a 1-star review. Popeyes. Who you calling chicken? Huh? I'm talking to you. With 2 entrances, you could open a Starbucks in there, my dearest mermaid. By the time you read this, I will have already moved into the cave. My tiny skillet CPU was about to overheat. They were taking advantage of my lack of pop culture knowledge. The Sword Sovereign heard my plea and immediately lay back down. Not leaving. The air at Silverblade is full of aphrodisiatoxin. This place is great. Free room and board. Ma'am, I said, looking defeated, I may be weak, but if you keep pushing me like this, I'm going to become deceased. She burst out laughing. You little skillet man are actually pretty funny. Fine, I won't stay for free. I'll pay. I huffed. Ma'am, I only made the down payment on this cave. I got a monthly mortgage plus utilities. She looked at me blankly. What does that mean? It means you have to pay HOA fees. I grumbled. Her jaw dropped, and then she gave me a thumbs up. Kid, you've got a bright future ahead of you. I thought to myself, empty wallet, tight budget, tight clothes, and a constant frown. That's not a bright future. That's a tight one. The Sword Sovereign tossed me a storage pouch. I'm out of spirit stones, but I have these herbs. Make do. I opened it. Holy crap. They were all top-grade herbs, and there was even a leg of a soul transformation stage wild boar. This stuff could cover rent in my crappy cave for a year. I looked at her excitedly. Thank you, my good ma'am. I intentionally mispronounced it to sound like money. And so, Cassie Thorne moved into my cave, demanding full room and board. For someone with a gourmet spirit root like me, the board part was a piece of cake. Under her astonished gaze, I used my alchemy cauldron to make a perfect caramel sauce and stewed a pot of rich, melt-in-your-mouth braised pork belly. I also grilled a fish. It was golden brown on both sides, glistening with oil and seasoned with cumin and chili flakes. Eat up, ma'am. I guarantee one bite will shut you right up. Cassie tore off a piece of fish and popped in her mouth, immediately letting out a series of yelps. Hot. Next time, take the bones out of the fish. I gave her a disdainful look. Suddenly, I felt a searing heat myself and shouted, hot. Cassie thought I was mocking her and drew her sword, but seeing my expression, she hesitated. You look like you're having a breakthrough. She watched me strangely until the energy surge subsided. Kid, what kind of spirit root do you have? I was panting heavily. Gore. She rolled her eyes and handed me a bowl of white rice. Gourmand. All you do is eat. I collapsed on the floor. Gourmet spirit root. I have a gourmet spirit root. Her hand froze in midair. After a long moment, she muttered, No wonder you had a breakthrough just from cooking a meal. I checked my cultivation level. It had skyrocketed. I was already a pipsqueak at the golden core stage. But there seemed to be a problem with my golden core. It was shaped like an alchemy cauldron. The chat laughed at me. Oh man, I'm dead. This story has gone completely off the rails. But you have to admit, that cauldron is a perfect match for your gourmet spirit root. Hey, at least a cauldron is related to alchemy. When one person is in trouble, 8 others show up to make it worse. I gritted my teeth. It's fine, don't be mad. Deep breaths. I'm handsome, I'm right, and I'm never wrong. Yeah, these guys were just jealous. Jessica showed up with Drake in tow. Ethan, let me introduce you. This is Drake Sterling. He's joined our guild. The chat started complaining. This guy is persistent, chasing the girl all the way to Whispering Pines. Streamer, you better run. If he finds out you and the heroine are living together, they're going to be in for a world of hurt. Their words were a good reminder. A wise skillet doesn't stand under a falling anvil. I had to get Cassie out of here. Drake sniffed the air. Is there someone else in your cave? That scent is familiar. Just a temporary worker from Silverblade. Here to test some pills, I said quickly. Drake frowned, clearly not buying it. What kind of pills? Braised pork meatball pills. He scowled. Is that a real thing? What does it do? It serve a transitional purpose, I replied, expressing the creator's deep sense of homesickness. He stared at me. Are you nuts? I held up 2 fingers proudly. 2 kinds. He shot me a dirty look and tried to push past me into the cave. Brother Drake, be careful, I warned him sweetly. I just had a little cauldron explosion. Drake's foot froze in midair. He pulled it back, his face pale, and spun around and left. Jessica pouted. What's his deal? So I blew up one little Armstrong hyperkinetic celestial cyclone crucible. Is he that traumatized? With that, she flew off after Drake. I let out a long breath. Dodged a bullet. If he'd found out, I'd be facing certain doom. But you can't avoid fate forever. I had to make a plan. And if I was going to face my doom, I'd rather it be a Porsche doom, not a Pinto doom. I closed the cave entrance. Cassie was snacking on some crispy pork bites. I didn't know how to start, but she seemed to read my mind. You want to kick me out? I nodded sheepishly. Ma'am, you may be my meal ticket, but I'm not your actual grandson. You can't just stay here forever. She clapped her hands. Simple. From now on, you're my disciple. I'll teach you swordsmanship. I looked troubled. Fighting is so much work. Isn't lying down better? Maybe you should just run for it. She scoffed. Where else am I going to find a chef as good as you? Fine, I'll leave. But only if you come with me. Correction, I argued. I'm an alchemist. She shot me a look of pure contempt. What kind of alchemist uses their cauldron to cook? I scratched my head at a loss for words. She put her hands on her hips, radiating killing intent. If I wasn't so tired of all the fighting, I could take out 10 weaklings like him with a flip-flop. That Drake guy has average skills at best. All he does all day is scheme up his pathetic little tricks. If he had any guts, he'd just try to force himself on me. The chat howled. El Mayo, average Joe. Average skills, average personality, everything's average. That's the sword sovereign for you. Streamer, you should go force yourself on her. I shrank back. That was not a thought a skillet like me should be having. Cassie picked up a piece of fried chicken. There are 10 lotuses in that pond in your herb garden. Go pick 9 of them. Those are Elder Matthew's sunfire lotuses, I whispered. I wouldn't dare. Cassie sneered. I meant you need more practice with your cooking. Starting today, you're training with me. Do you have an express class? I asked. I want to learn something with high attack power, and I need to be fast so I can run if I can't win. She gave me a disgusted look. No ambition. I have a few sword techniques. The first is skillet come. The second is 1 skillet to open heaven's gate. The third is 10,000 skillets return to the source. Master these, and dealing with Drake will be a piece of cake. I nodded like a bobblehead. That was so cool. These moves were clearly tailor-made for me. Cassie rolled her eyes. First, make me some blackened catfish with Creole sauce and some fermented century eggs with Limburger cheese stew. I protested. What would be left of my skillet after making that? My protest was denied. I trudged off to the kitchen, holding my nose. I disgustedly tossed the fermented ingredients into the cauldron. In moments, a horrific stench filled the air. Outside, Drake, suspecting I had tricked him, had snuck back to my cave entrance. He broke the barrier, excitedly threw open the door, and was hit by a wall of stench that smelled like a 60-year-old man's armpit on a 100-degree summer day. His stomach churned, and he vomited all over the ground before stumbling away, clutching the wall. The people in Whispering Pines are all insane, he cursed. They love making their cauldrons explode with shit. Drake eventually found out about Cassie staying with me. He stood in my doorway, stared at her now slightly rounded belly, and let his imagination run wild. He was furious. He pointed a shaking finger at my nose. What does this loser have that I don't? I was filled with regret. So much regret. Why did I have to make her that 5-spice chicken and 8 treasure goose for breakfast? Silence was the only bridge across this river of misunderstanding. Cassie, her mouth full of an egg tart, mumbled, "This guy is definitely not a scallop," which was her way of saying he was full of it. I forced a smile. Did she really need to point that out? The chat piled on. The look on the streamer's face is so bitter. If he bought a lottery ticket, he'd scratch off a "you owe us money" prize. Drake took his anger out on me. You loser. The journeyman alchemist exam is next month. I'm going to beat you to a pulp. Whatever doesn't kill me, I muttered, only makes my meat more tender. You. Drake sputtered. I tugged on Cassie's sleeve. What's his problem? Pre-exam anxiety, she said. I smacked my lips. What's so bad about anxiety? Crispy, anxious bacon is delicious. Back in the cave, I asked Cassie why she didn't just slice him in half with her sword. You don't know about my 2 rules of sword fighting? She asked, surprised. What 2 rules? This one, I don't cut, she said matter-of-factly. And that one I don't cut. Besides, my dad told me not to play with riffraff. I shouldn't have even asked. Hier, stumped. Then why do you even practice with a sword? Cassie clapped her hands. I was forced into it. My dad is the headmaster of Silverblade Academy. With the resources of an entire major guild supporting me, I could have been a pig and I still would have ascended to the next realm by now. So why haven't you ascended yet? I asked meekly. She shot me a glare. Because I don't want to. What am I going to do when I ascend? Keep grinding? This little world is great. I can just chill and nobody can beat me. Then why were you running that day? I asked, confused. With her level of power, how could she have been affected by Drake's poison? She looked embarrassed. To avoid ascending, I transferred all my power into my personal sword. I was careless that day and didn't dodge. Cassie continued. Drake wants to get his hands on me because he wants to steal the power I've stored in my sword. The chat went off. If you want to get rich, there's one simple trick. Marry into it. Who wouldn't want a supersized power bank? Just plug it in, and your power level goes through the roof. Dude above me, I think you're being dirty, but I have no proof. I looked at the chat, my own interest piqued. Can I borrow your power bank? I whispered. I couldn't help it. My own training felt like trying to get the last 1-cent discount on a Temu order. Instead of working hard, why not just use a cheat code? On the day of the guild competition, I was going to show Drake that I wasn't some delicate little flower. I had plenty of tricks on my sleeve. Cassie summoned her personal sword. It was bright pink, and it looked familiar. After you ran out of willow branches last time, what did you use to skewer the lamb kebabs? Cassie waved the pink sword. This, of course, it makes a great skewer. This thing's not worth much anyway. As I stared, dumbfounded, Cassie proceeded to pour her energy into me, boosting me straight to the soul transformation stage. I licked my lips, still wanting more. How about a little more? She smacked me on the head. Don't bite off more than you can chew. What level are you at now? I asked. Tribulation stage, level 3000, she said proudly, summoning 3000 identical pink swords. The one you were just using happens to be the one I forged at level 3000. That's why I call it the Get Wrecked 3000. It's yours now. Charge up slowly. Pay to win is fun for a while, but once you hit the tribulation stage yourself, stop. Is ascending really that bad? I asked her. Cassie frowned. We have an ancestor at Silverblade who ascended. According to the messages he sent back, he became a heavenly soldier. 500 years ago, he was part of an army of 100,000 sent to capture a monkey. Our ancestor said that in this world, he was a king, but after ascending, he's less than a trained monkey. I scratched my head. That would be pretty demoralizing. The journeyman alchemist exam arrived. With Cassie backing me, my power level had shot up like a rocket. I was now a grand ascension stage master. Here in Whispering Pines, you could call me Little Skillet, and I wouldn't mind. But outside these walls, you better show some respect. The moment Drake saw me, he made a beeline for me like a dog to a fire hydrant. He couldn't sense my true power. You broken pot, you actually dare to show up. I've already reached the soul transformation stage. Just wait, I'm going to pulverize you, he sneered, letting out a cackle. The chat reacted. That gave me goosebumps. The main character's laugh does not sound like a good guy's laugh. He has no idea the streamer is already at Grand Ascension. The harder he laughs now, the harder he'll cry later. Streamer, Drake found a lucky treasure the other day and got a super pet, a Magikarp. Remember to take it home for fish head soup. At the mention of food, a line of drool involuntarily escaped my lips. The exam had 3 rounds, identifying herbs, alchemy, and combat. I got through the first 2 rounds without any major issues, except for a small hiccup in the second. My cauldron had rarely been used for actual alchemy. I was completely reliant on the chat's guidance. Streamer, listen to me. Add sodium first. 1 part sulfur, 2 parts saltpeter, 3 parts charcoal. Add a pinch of sugar for that big boy bang. I didn't understand it, but I trusted them. I did exactly as they said. And that's how the first mushroom cloud in the history of the magical world was born. I stood there awkwardly, not knowing what to do. Luckily, they were enrolling more people this year. And luckily, in the middle of the smoldering wreckage, a single golden pill was glowing. Elder Matthews shot me a look. Pill formed. You pass. Does that pill look like a gallstone to anyone else? LMAO, it is a gallstone. He was making that weird tripe hot pot yesterday. The cow must have had stones, and one probably fell in the cauldron. I sheepishly put away my cauldron. Inside, a few undigested chicken gizzards were still rattling around. For the third round, Drake jumped onto the stage before it even started. He pointed at me. You, get up here. The spiritual energy around him exploded, coalescing in the air into a massive iron hammer. He gripped it, looking triumphant. This is my Titan's Maul. Watch me smash you into a pancake. I shook my head, disappointed. That's it. You should go home and eat some steamed vegetables. He looked confused. What's that supposed to mean? Because you've got no sauce. You're dead. Drake roared, swinging the hammer down at me. The maul, crackling with the full power of a soul transformation stage cultivator, descended like a thunderbolt, the sheer force of it causing the protective barrier around the stage to flicker wildly. Break, I said, uttering a single soft word. The unstoppable Titan's maul instantly disintegrated. Impossible. Drake tumbled from the sky, staring at me in despair, unable to believe his ultimate attack had been so effortlessly shattered. Jessica looked at me in shock. Ethan, what's your cultivation level? Oh, just grand ascension, I said casually. Jessica, I don't think you can stop. Jessica looked up at the rapidly falling Drake and screamed, Drake, hit the brakes. Use your prostate brake. Is the main character finished? The plot is completely derailed. What's going to happen when the enemies from the higher realm invade? Dude above, are you dumb? In the original story, the heroine gets screwed over by the main character, who steals her sword and forces her to sacrifice herself. Now she's at tribulation stage, level 3000. No matter how many people invade, she could handle them all. True. And this Drake guy is a total loser anyway. It takes him that many swords to reach the tribulation stage, and he's still weaker than our streamer, a literal skillet. I scoffed internally. You guys are always calling me a blockhead, but I'm not. Most of the time, I'm a freaking genius. Drake was crippled. Unfortunately, Jessica, with her simp brain, was still deeply in love with him. Ah, streamer, you have to save Jessica. The main character is such a scumbag. Take your cauldron and gently knock some sense into her sleeping soul. A simp brain is usually caused by excessive lung heat. The only cure is to make her watch an hour of bad reality TV to cleanse her palate. The chat said simps should only be allowed to eat wild vegetables. That wouldn't do. My Jessica deserved meat and fish at every meal. The next day, I went to the Velvet Circle and hired a few of their male disciples. The handsome man in the lead, oozing charm, looked at a portrait. This is the guy. He licked his lips. I'm the best at what I do. Don't you worry. Yours truly, Julian, can relieve a man of his virtue 4 or 5 times in a single minute. I'm counting on you, I said, bowing slightly. The men sauntered over to Drake. Well, hello there, handsome, one purred. Come play with us. Drake's face turned bright red. Cassie couldn't watch. Couldn't you have just hired some women for him? I put on a pained expression. Those women, they're all such tragic figures. They all have a gambling-addicted father, a sick mother, a younger brother in college, and a broken home. Cassie sighed. I suppose. Women shouldn't make things harder for other women. It's not really that, I admitted. It's just that hiring women for him would feel like a reward. Ack. She was summoning lightning to strike me. Seeing Drake being charmed by men, Jessica stomped her foot in frustration. Don't you fall for the tricks of these male sirens. Drake snapped. Why are you so mad at me? You should be grateful that I deigned to play with someone with a life as boring as yours. And another thing, Jessica, don't talk to me anymore. I'm afraid Julian will get the wrong idea. Tears welled up in Jessica's eyes. Her heart was finally broken. Drake left the guild and joined the Velvet Circle. As he left, he shot me a final threat. What goes around comes around. You just wait. Oomph. A pig on its way to the slaughterhouse, dreaming of glory. I couldn't be bothered to respond. My indifference made him even angrier. What's wrong, buddy? I asked cheerfully. You look upset. If you have any problems, feel free to keep them to yourself. Don't tell me. Decades passed in a flash. Cassie never left my cave. She was now at tribulation stage, level 5000. A few days ago, some invaders from the higher realm broke through the dimensional barrier. But when they saw Cassie preparing skewers for hot pot, with 12 of her personal swords stuck through a single chicken foot. They promptly turned around and ran. 12 was the chicken foot's limit, not Cassie's. As for me, I was content to be an alchemist who never actually did any alchemy. Streamer, today I want to see you make a pickled okra and anchovy salad, and maybe a jellied eel pie. Hard pass, I replied dismissively. The last time I made fermented turnip juice, I threw the cauldron all the way to Silverblade Academy, and I could still smell it. I tossed some frozen rice into my cauldron, followed by a packet of echinacea powder. All right, settle down. Today for my friends, I'm making echinacea fried rice. How's that for an experience, family? I looked at my personal skillet, my very own golden core. Me, Ethan Potts, was now at tribulation stage, level 10. A whole set of 10 skillets. Frying, searing, steaming, boiling, stir-frying. I have too many. I just can't use them all.